Hey guys, it's Luke from Mixing Made Simple, and today I want to talk about mixing and mastering and which one I think is more important, especially in the context of being a dance music producer. Now, I know most of you watching this video probably already know the difference between mixing and mastering, but just in case you're brand new to music production or brand new to learning about mixing and mastering, let me just give you some quick definitions of both. Mixing is the process of taking multiple single audio tracks, like say vocals, recorded instruments, or maybe synth instruments, taking these tracks, combining them together, balancing them out, using effects on them like compression, EQ, reverb, balancing the levels, and putting them together in a way to form a cohesive stereo mix. I like to think about it like we have the audio and then we're shaping the audio into little puzzle pieces that we put together and create a nice stereo image of a finished mix. Now, the mastering process is where you take this finished stereo mix, whether you're doing it in the DAW in your mastering channel, or if you take that mix, export it to a WAV file, and then send it to a mastering engineer. You take that and you're basically adding some finishing touches, doing slight adjustments, and then ultimately bringing up the mix to a commercial loudness level and getting it prepared for release. Oftentimes, a mastering engineer will do a little bit of compression, a little bit of EQ, really subtle EQ, and almost always have a limiter at the end of that mastering chain to be able to bring the loudness up and just get it ready for release. Okay, so now that we know the difference between mixing and mastering, which one do I think is more important and why? Well, personally, I think that mixing is far more important than mastering, and let me explain why. I can pretty much explain this in one sentence, which is you can make a good mix sound better with mastering, but you can't fix a bad mix with mastering. And the reason I'm making this video is because personally, I used to really struggle with this a lot, and I know there's probably a lot of you also struggling with this, where you've finished your track, but you just can't seem to get it to that professional level sound that you're looking for. And then you go to the master channel thinking that it might be a mastering issue, and then you struggle to get it to the loudness that you want, and it's just not sounding as good as your professional references that you're referencing. You might take something like Ozone Mastering Assistant and put it on there and try to get it to fix your mix. Or you might get it mastered online in one of the AI mastering services. Or you might actually pay a mastering engineer. You send your mix isn't that good. You expect this amazing mastering engineer to send your music back and have it sound amazing, only to get it sent back and it just still doesn't sound that great. Well, that's because the problem is in your mix. A good example of this is if you're struggling to get your music to the loudness level that you want. So if you're a dance music producer and you're struggling to get to that -8 to -6 LUFS, which is typically what we aim for in EDM. If you're struggling to reach that desired loudness level, it probably has to do with the mix. I know personally, if I have a great mix, I can get to the loudness level that I want really with no problem. If you have a well-balanced mix with good depth, it's EQ'd well, it's compressed really well where it needs it, you can pretty much take that mix and get it to the loudness level you want with just a single limiter if it's a really good mix. This isn't to say that mastering isn't important. I would definitely recommend that when you do have your finished mix to learn how to master it yourself, but then also send to a good mastering engineer who can take your mix and, like I said, improve it just a little bit more than you would be able to do by yourself. And then, compare their master with your own master. And then if you decide to send to a record label or a release, then choose which one you think is better. Maybe send to some friends and get some feedback. And then you'll have two really good tracks that you know that you'd be comfortable with sending out. I would even suggest that if you can't get your mix to sound quite as good as you'd like it, to even send to a mix engineer or maybe to a mix engineer who also masters music. You can send your reference mix to give them an idea of the kind of sound you're looking for, and they might be able to take your track, take the individual stem files, mix your track, and just get it to a professional level sound that you're just not able to achieve right now, even though you will eventually be able to achieve this sound in the future if you just keep working at it. So if you're struggling with your track, struggling to get it to that professional level sound you're looking for, I would say don't worry about the mastering, really go to the mix. Use some really good references. Use a referencing tool like Metric AB. That's my favorite referencing plugin. You can put like several professional tracks on there. Go back and forth between the professional track and your track and really listen critically and pay attention to each individual element. Does your bass line up with their bass? Is your kick drum as loud as the reference and really popping out in the mix. Do everything that you can to get your mix to sound as good as possible before even considering the mastering stage. Okay, so I hope this video helps. I know for me personally, I had a bunch of times in the past where I would just get stuck on the master channel, adjusting limiter and EQ and all these different settings and just kind of banging my head against the wall, thinking it was something to do with mastering when really it just had to do with the mix. So really focus on the mix. And that's not to say that mastering isn't important, but in my opinion, the mixing and getting good at mixing is far more important than mastering. And if you've made it this far and you are a music producer who is wanting to get better at mixing and mastering and you're wanting to improve much faster, I do have a course that I just launched and it's going really well so far. My students are really loving it. Go ahead and look in the description below where you can book a call with me. We can discuss getting you enrolled. And I think I put a lot of time and effort into this course, and I really think it's going to cut down your learning curve a lot. It's really immersive, really in depth. I'll teach you everything you need to know about mixing and mastering. And I also give out several stem files of some pretty high level sounding tracks. That way you can practice with these stem files and really internalize and cement your learning. I like to say that learning is doing. Just like you can't learn how to ride a bike unless you actually hop on the bike, you're not really going to get good at producing music or mixing and mastering unless you're doing a lot of producing and mixing and mastering. So once again, I hope this video helped and I look forward to talking to you soon, and I will see you guys next time.